I've been meaning to make this video for a while. Stadium has been in the game for ages. Stadium is a super popular game mode, especially among casual players. I'm not a fan, but I'm also not massively on board, but I want to discuss what I think works, what doesn't work, and if the game mode could ever be competitively viable. I will say, as much as there is a bunch of sustained stuff and a lot of high health, stupid crap like that, the time to kill, at least from my experience playing, is still relatively good. Yeah, you get an odd game where a character does become very unkillable, but for the most part, in my experience, I played a lot of Tracer, Cass, some Zarya, and a bit of Ana, right? Most things were fairly killable still, even though, yeah, sure, they have a bunch of health, you also have lots of damage. So long as an entire team doesn't feel full sustain and it's like a super annoying, most of the time it's pretty good, and I like the fact that that is still present. Fairly fast-paced games, like the actual time you're playing, so when the round actually starts, pretty fast. Like you're able to actually, get into a fight really quick, flies by, a bunch of stuff's happening at once, there's a bunch of action instantly. The same Overwatch that we all love, the fast-paced, chaotic nature, is still present. And the buy phase kind of acts like a nice break and a way to think about things more and actually process stuff. Whether or not I like waiting 1 minute or more, I don't know how long the buy phase actually is a different thing, but all in all, it does help break up the really chaotic parts of the game. Like if I was just to play 20 minutes straight of that chaos, I think I would go insane, so the buy phase works as a good break. I think draft pick is also solid. I think draft is a fun way to pick things. I play a lot of League, and League is draft pick. I think draft pick is very, very good, especially in a game where you can't swap characters. It makes sense to go with the draft pick. Counters, I think, happen slightly less due to the draft pick, essentially. Obviously, still not great, but in theory, in a team environment, if one person gets countered, you could counter the counter, and it could, it could all work. The game mode has lots of potential for super, super fun games. Is every game with Stadium fun? Not really, but it does have the potential to have some incredibly enjoyable games and rounds. And also I want to preface, casual does not mean bad. I think it is very important to have a game mode that is just arcadey and fun, and this sort of suits that very well. So going into the competitive sections and what doesn't work, take it with a little bit of that grain of casualness, because there's nothing wrong with the game mode just being casual. But I like to think in theory, if this was going to be a competitive game mode, what would that look like? So let's move on to what doesn't work in my opinion. I kind of slightly hinted towards this when I mentioned the fact that games have potential to be super fun, but also not. The games are very volatile. Sometimes it's the worst Overwatch experience ever, and sometimes it's one of the best, and you can't really choose which way it's going to go for you. The thing with adding a bunch of different stuff into a game, it increases the chance for each game to feel more annoying. You increase your chances of having fun, sure, but you also increase the chances of not having fun. It's very, very common for this to happen. It's hard to get the balance right. And also, even with a draft, you can still just have really bad matchups and just not have an enjoyable game because the enemy team comp is better than your one, and that gets expedited even more with the items you can buy. Overwatch as well was not designed to be played like this. From the floor up, the game was not designed to be played like this. And Stadium isn't a redesign of Overwatch, it's Overwatch, but we added this Stadium stuff to it. So you can kind of tell that it's not meant to work like this. The game doesn't play almost the way Stadium is. And that's fine, like I said, for the casual arcadey thing, but that is definitely a problem if you were going to make it competitive. If you think about it, most of the characters that get added, every single time a new character gets added, someone will complain very quickly that that character doesn't belong in Stadium. Because it's hard to argue any character belongs in Stadium. They weren't made for it. Like, yeah, of course, Torb probably doesn't fit Stadium. It's like, oh, what, we can have turret stuff. This is just a personal thing. The rank system is so unnecessarily different. It literally could just be bronze to champ and have the exact same system. It just doesn't need to be this sort of a level up Fortnite arena system. It just doesn't. And that is going to hurt a few people's feelings. But the reason it's actually like this is because the devs do know it's a casual game mode, and this rank system gives the chance for casual players to hit a quote-unquote good rank. It's very easy to hit a high rank in Stadium if you want to, and that's not an insult to you as the player. It's just that's the system. It's designed to essentially allow you to do that. You're kind of just rewarded for playtime. Also, this is just a weird gripe. I can't even really describe specifically what I'm on about, but the item shop and the item system just feels clunky. Something feels wrong. I don't know why. Can't really put my finger on it. Something's off. Is it the icons? Is it the layout? Is it just the way they are? It just really feels like it just doesn't feel right. Something feels off. I don't know. It feels like there needs to be more done there. Like, you can tell that it's not, this doesn't feel like a full-fledged game. Like, if a game launched looking like this and feeling like this, I feel like it's unfinished. But because it's a separate, like, arcade game mode, I don't care. And also just the consistency, it does just feel like a bunch of random power-ups. It's not like item theory, like in League or something. You actually have these separate pages that clearly do something and build into things, and obviously they use a different way, but this just feels like a bunch of random upgrades, which is sure what they're going for, but that'll never work for a competitive game mode, which I'll mention later probably, but it just wouldn't work. Also, there is only one good build to use. Let's not pretend that's not the case. You can try all the other ones and have a bit of fun, but let's be so honest, there is one optimal build for each character, and you can kind of just do it every game. I tried some weird tracer builds, like I wanted to make Blink Melees really broken, but like it just sucked in comparison to attack speed and damage. But I like the idea that you could do that, but it doesn't work. Should it stay casual? Honestly, yeah. Like, I'm talking about making it competitive, but this is just for the fun of it. It should just be a casual game mode. I really, really want them to acknowledge as a casual game mode. Keep it like this. I don't think it needs a competitive system and a quick play queue. It could either just have a queue, and you could even keep the way the rank system works, because it's not a real rank system, so who gives a shit? Like, it's more of a level up than it is a rank system. Like, just be honest about it. It's like drives. You could just have it be like that, where it's more of a level up than it is a actual system. It could reset every season or something just to incentivize people to play. I don't know, but there should not be two separate queues for this. It's not that serious. And if they do make it casual, they should probably lean into all the weird stuff and just kind of go crazy with it. Like, do you know what I mean? Have some more weird builds and wacky builds. It's got this weird mix of like genuine, that's what the character should do, and just bizarre random stuff. And I think they need to pick a direction. And then also, if this game mode is really casual and just for fun, can we please give some more dev time to the core game mode? Like, the core game mode for the past, like, 5 patches has just been hit with random, like, 2% perk tweaks and just, like, random projectile size changes, whereas Stadium gets, like, an absolute chunk of changes. And I get it's because it's a bunch of items, so if you marginally change some items, whatever, but it's actually, it just feels crazy. I feel like the core game mode should get more of the time if Stadium's meant to be the casual one. I get it if for some reason the devs thought Stadium was the future of Overwatch, I understand it, but I don't think it is. Alright, this sounds crazy, call me crazy. For it to actually function properly in a competitive environment, it would need the items to function like League. Random upgrades, sure. Simple, easy to understand. It's going to be harder to balance, harder to know, like, it'll be harder to balance. And you also then have to make specific ones for each character instead of the idea of having items that work for almost classes of character. So for instance, you could have like a couple good items, 5 legendary good items for for hit scan and range characters. Like people like Ashe, Cassidy, even Freya, right? They usually will build a core item out of this, and they could dip their toes into this, like maybe some tank stuff, maybe some like mobility stuff, but they have to get like the core item from here. And then a tank could have a bunch of tank items that they need to get. Supports could have different support items, and they could all do different things, but they exist separate, and then the characters build them instead of the way it feels where it's more of a character upgrades itself instead of actually making a build. That also means game to game could matter more. So say you were only able to get 3 items in a game, because of the way it works with buy phase, it's not a game where you can recore and go get items, it's between rounds. So I'd understand if it could only be like 3 items, and if you're losing a lot, you're only going to get like 2.5, right? But those 3 items, you might actually think really hard about it. You get your core one, this is the thing that makes your character good and strong, but then you might be taking unnecessary damage, but your team actually has good damage as well. So you might dip into a bit of a tank one, like an offensive tank item. And then you might come back to the range one, think, oh, you're doing all fine, I'm going to go get another range item. That type of thing. That I think is more balanceable without having to individually tweak heroes to Stadium, and is also going to be easier to actually learn over a long course of time. It seems complicated at the start, but I think over a long course of time, that makes more sense. And then you can do item changes, you can add items, change them around, rework them, stuff like that. I also think the game needs a proper rank system. By proper rank system, I mean, if it was, again, to have that separate rank game mode, it would need to be a ranked like the main game mode. The main game mode has a perfect rank system. Just use that one. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just have a good rank system. Why are we making one up that's terrible? Like, just use the normal one, and then a game mode can actually be competitive. Overall, I don't really know perfectly what it needs to be competitively viable. I just don't think it is right now, and it would be stupid to pretend that it is. And if they really want it to, they do have to do something with upgrades. I think it's the upgrade system itself doesn't lend itself to a competitive environment. It's just not. And then as you add more characters, you have to keep changing the way upgrades work instead of having set items. Because then, for instance, you could add a character and you kind of go, okay, well, if we're going to add Widowmaker, she's probably going to buy these ranged marksman items anyway. So what? Who cares? We don't have to like tweak upgrades here. It's like Widow now gets to do this. But if we find, oh, Widow's actually benefiting a lot from the AP items for some reason, maybe we don't nerf it that much, but maybe we change Widowmaker's scaling with AP, stuff like that. That's what League does essentially. So yeah, just food for thought. My closing thoughts: they can just keep it casual and arcadey. I don't think they need to do some drastic overhaul, but they have to like almost admit that it is casual and arcadey, and then just make it actually make it fully go into the casual direction. I really wanted to focus on the core game mode. That's not just because I play it more. That's also just because I think putting all this time in a stadium to make this style of change is just really boring. They're not even doing anything drastic to stadium. It's like you could say, oh, they're just experimenting and they're going to see where it goes and then they'll go back to the normal mode. They're not. They maybe add a map, add a character, and they tweak some upgrades. Nothing to stadium is changing. They're just adding characters and maps. That's not changing the game mode. That's just adding characters and maps. I think it would be cool, in theory, if it becomes like an FPS MOBA. You know, I mean, Deadlock's kind of doing that right now. I mean, it'll be its third person. But I think that would take a very long time to reach and would require them to put, like, genuine work into it. It would be redesigning the game. Overwatch doesn't function with this style. It's meant to be sort of an FPS MOBA without the items. But now that we're around the items in, it's a bit weird. But I would like to see something. It would be cool to see something come of this. They just got to experiment. Maybe I'll play more Stadium, but for now it just doesn't quite scratch that itch because it just does feel like a goof about game mode. But it's essentially my quick play if I still want to get comp points. That's how I treat it. Anyway, peace out.